In his first pay-per-view fight, Paddy Pimblett beat Jared Gordon in a controversial decision that kept him from losing for the first time in the UFC. The baddie was fighting the seasoned fighter Gordon in the co-main event of UFC 282 in Las Vegas. This was Pimblett's first fight in the U.S. since he made his UFC debut last September. This year, the charismatic Scouser had already choked out Kazula Vargas and Jordan Levitt. By beating Gordon, he kept his record of finishing every fight in the UFC at 100%. Starting us off, Paddy Pimblett picks up fourth successive UFC win by beating Jared Gordon. Gordon started the fight by taking a few kicks to the body from Pimblett. Gordon countered with some hard hooks, which worked well. The Scouser caught Gordon's kick and then hit him with a good right hand, which made the American run away. After Pimblett got a takedown, but was then turned around and put on his back, Gordon won the round. Going into the third round, it was a tie, and Gordon tried to take down Pimblett right away. Pimblett did his best to break Gordon's grip. Gordon was gaining control time while Pimblett's back was against the fence, but the Scouser was giving Gordon some good elbows to the head. The American kept beating Pimblett until the final bell, but the judges controversially gave the fight to Pimblett with a 29-28 score after 3 rounds. The baddie said about his win, "Who's the effing hype train now?" Pimblett also talked about how, after starting his own foundation this week, he plans to do good works with Gordon. Grant Dawson wants Paddy Pimblett in London to prove that Scousers get knocked out. Grant Dawson wants the chance to put an end to the buzz around Paddy Pimblett, a lightweight fighter in the UFC. Dawson, a veteran of Dana White's Contender Series with a 19-1-1 MMA record and a 7-0-1 UFC record, had a great year in 2022, stopping both Jared Gordon and Mark Madsen, who had never lost before. Now he wants to keep building on his success by facing the more and more popular Pimblett, 20-3 MMA, 4-0 UFC. Dawson told fans on Millions.co that he is trying to make the fight happen at the next UFC card in London. Dawson said, "I would love to fight Paddy. We want that fight to happen in London on March 18th. I'll fight him where he lives to show that Scousers can get knocked out." At UFC 282, Pimblett beat Jared Gordon by a controversial unanimous decision. Dawson and Gordon were also on the card. Dawson, who is currently ranked number 8 in the USA Today Sports MMA Junkie lightweight rankings, has Pimblett as his top choice for his next fight. However, if he can't get the fight he wants, he has a few other names in mind, including a former interim champion. Dawson said, "If that doesn't happen, I'm going to look for Tony Ferguson. If that doesn't happen, I'm going to look for Dan Hooker. I don't know what to tell you if that doesn't happen. Who else?" Dawson is getting close to the top contenders in his division. He has 7 wins in the UFC and has never lost. A fight with Pimblett, Ferguson, or Hooker could give him the boost he needs to be mentioned in the conversation about the lightweight title. It seems that Dawson isn't the only fighter doubting Pimblett's skill. Chris Weidman said Paddy Pimblett is completely delusional about UFC 282 win versus Jared Gordon, or it's a gimmick. Chris Weidman can't believe that Paddy Pimblett really thinks he beat Jared Gordon at UFC 282. In the co-main event at T-Mobile Arena on Saturday, Pimblett, 20-3 MMA, 4-0 UFC, beat Gordon by a unanimous decision. This decision turned a lot of heads and put the judges under fire. Pimblett defended the decision right away, saying that he thought he had easily won rounds 1 and 2. The rising star also said before the fight that he would have been a tougher opponent for UFC lightweight champion Islam Makhachev than Charles Oliveira was, which Weidman thinks is ridiculous. Weidman said on Daniel Cormier's YouTube channel, "Paddy just confuses the hell out of me. All I want to know is if it's a trick. Him going right to the mic as soon as he gets the answer. I thought he had lost for sure 30-27. I thought he lost all 3 rounds, though the second round might have been the closest. If I were kind to him, I would give him the second. Still, I'm not sure if it's confidence or just a trick. Either he is completely crazy or this is a trick, and if it's a trick, more power to him. I bow down to him, you're doing a great job. But if he is that crazy, he has lost his mind. For him to think he could beat Makhachev and compare himself to Charles Oliveira when he was getting beaten up by Jared Gordon, who I have a lot of respect for, but he's a small 55er, and he's talking about Makhachev, whose specialty is wrestling, and Oliveira, these monster guys whose specialty is ground game. I don't know where he gets this information. How could he say such a thing?" Gordon himself was confused by the result, so he asked Pimblett to play again. The 34-year-old New Yorker said he would even go to Pimblett's home country to settle things at UFC 286 in London. Even Drew Dober wants a go at Paddy after the controversial win. Drew Dober used to try hard to get a matchup with Paddy Pimblett, but now he thinks it's pointless. When Pimblett, 20-3 MMA, 4-0 UFC, was looking for a fight at UFC 282 last weekend, Dober, 25-11 MMA, 12-6 UFC, put his name in the hat, hoping to fight the rising British star. It didn't happen, so the promotion booked a match with Jared Gordon instead. Even though Pimblett won the fight, it was controversial because he won by unanimous decision, which most people in the MMA community didn't agree with. Dober will fight Bobby Green, 29-13-1 MMA, 10-8-1 UFC, on Saturday at UFC Fight Night 216 at the UFC Apex. Dober has been in the octagon with many of the best lightweights in the world. Dober has fought Islam Makhachev, Beneil Dariush, Alexander Hernandez, Terrence McKinney, and others, which is a higher level of competition than Pimblett has faced. Dober doesn't think that fight will ever happen because of how hard it was for Pimblett to beat Gordon. Dober told MMA Junkie and other reporters at UFC Fight Night 216 Media Day on Wednesday, "UFC won't let me fight him. Let's be honest, we saw his last match. We all know what I can do. That would be a lot of fun. I just want to fight at that O2 Arena in London. I'm all for it if Paddy says yes, but everyone knows. We have Dana, UFC, and all of those, and they won't let that happen." Could it happen? If the UFC did agree to let Dober fight, he knows that it would be a bit like climbing a hill. Dober thinks that anyone who goes to the scorecards with the baddie is at risk of having the same thing happen to them as it did to Gordon. Dober said, "My take on the whole thing is that the judges' decisions have something to do with star power. We're watching octagon control, effectiveness, and all that other stuff. You also have to get over star power. So when you fight a big guy like Paddy, you have to do more than just 5 more punches." At the moment, Dober is thinking about his upcoming fight with Green, which is another fight that gets him excited. It's Green's first fight since he got back from a U.S. anti-doping agency suspension for taking a tainted supplement. Some people might have doubts about whether or not Green is clean, but Dober has no worries. "It's hard. It is a thing for supplements to be tainted by other things," Dober said. "I've seen that. I think Bobby did something wrong, but I don't think he did it on purpose. I don't think I'm fighting a Bobby Green who has taken steroids and used chemicals to improve his performance. I think he just made a mistake and he had to pay for it. I don't think he meant to do it though. I think he is a natural fighter who doesn't cheat. He's been fighting for so long, so I'm not at all worried about it." Well, has Paddy Pimblett ever lost an MMA fight before? Dana White has said that Paddy Pimblett will be the next Conor McGregor. At UFC 282, he will fight Jared Gordon. This will be his 4th fight in the UFC. If Pimblett wins, he will be on his way to becoming the best fighter in the lightweight division. Even though he hasn't fought for the title yet, a win here would make him one of the top contenders in the lightweight division. Pimblett's MMA record isn't perfect though. He has lost a few times in MMA. Let's look at what he's lost. When did Paddy Pimblett lose a mixed martial arts match? So far, Paddy the Baddie Pimblett has lost 3 MMA fights. The losses happened in a different event called Cage Warriors Promotion. 2 of the losses were by decisions and 1 was by a submission. Cameron Else beat him for the first time at CWFC 60. He put him to sleep in 35 seconds of the first round. After this loss, Pimblett won 9 more fights before Narimani beat him at CWFC 82. In the fight, he lost his featherweight title by a unanimous vote. After this fight, Pimblett moved up to the lightweight division, where he won 1 match before facing the champion Soren Bach. He lost this fight when the judge said so. After that, he had 2 more fights in the CWFC, then moved to the UFC. He has won all 3 of his UFC fights, and his next opponent will be Jared Gordon. About his fight with Gordon, Paddy Pimblett has been pretty calm. In a vlog, he talked at length about his training camp and said at the end that Gordon will be taken out in the first round. The lightweight division might have the most talented fighters in the UFC, and by extension the whole world. Also, Conor McGregor is likely to come back to the UFC in 2023, so Pimblett will have to chew through a lot of competition to get to the top. What are your thoughts on Paddy Pimblett's UFC 282 fight? Let us know in the comments section below. Well, that's it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel for more videos just like this. Till next time, cheers!